Well, hi. My name is Tessa. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with grief, depression, anxiety, a lot of pride, occasional anger, and many other things that vary on a day-to-day basis. Once upon a time, when I was but a wee Tessa, I had a perfect childhood, or as near to perfect as you can get in this perfect world, in this sinful world. I was born in Denver, Colorado, to two awesome parents, Jeff and Sarah Sullivan. I also had the unique privilege of being born a twin, which has guaranteed me a best friend and a companion that I can always reach out to. In addition to these three, my grandmother, or as I like to call her, my Nana, has always been directly in my life. She lived only a mile away from us, or with us, for as long as I can remember. My family was extremely tight-knit. The glue that held us together was our Christian faith and values. Toxic shenanigans had no place in our household, and my sister and I learned early that a joke and sarcasm was fine, so long as you aren't joking about things that are meant to be hurtful barbs. I gained my wry sense of humor and my desire to bring joy to people from these happy encounters. One big factor in my life was the decision my parents made to homeschool us. They were given a lot of criticism over the years from other people who didn't understand their decision. They sacrificed a second income in order to provide that opportunity for us. My dad slaved away at terrible jobs with abusive corporate managers as a gas station manager just so that he could provide a life for his two lovely girls. He was hardly successful by human standards, but he was always loving and shared his faith with all of his coworkers, wherever he was. Mom also made great sacrifices as she stayed home to teach and discipline us and grow us into decent human beings. I think she succeeded and did a pretty good job, but you guys be the judge. She would sit us down and honestly explain the world out there and why we hold the beliefs we have. I'm certain this saved me from the trap of over-sheltering a child and kept us from being deceived by that big old world out there. Arguably, the biggest lesson that she told us was, it doesn't matter what you do or what you accomplish, if you are rich and live in a mansion or dirt poor and live in a humble trailer. All that matters to me is that you know the Lord and that I will see you in heaven. Nothing else matters but that. That's quite an important lesson to learn as a kid. Nana worked hard in the church in my early years, so I remember skittering around a little church from my earliest memories and being surrounded by all her godly friends, which I remember and still love to see to this day. She's always been praying over Johanna and me, and I grew and began to move through, I always remember having my bestest buddy around to guide me around when I was a kid. For my part, I just listened and absorbed all these little lessons like a little sponge that I was. God gave me a very good brain and a desire to learn. He particularly gifted me with science-y things in particular. While being at home, there usually would be a Christian podcast playing in the background for me to listen to as I did my schoolwork, and a lot of my textbooks were Christian material that also spiritually fed me as I fed my brain with other new knowledge. In 2016, I was standing on Forsyth Tech Community College campus ready to enroll in my early college program. My sister and I had worked year-round on homeschool, so we graduated from high school 2 years earlier than other students. We were absolutely terrified to start, but quickly found it was not dissimilar to the challenges posed by our past schooling and adapted pretty quickly. After our first year in college, our classes began to diverge, and as my sister studied history and sociology, I was studying chemistry and biology. After being together nearly 17 years at this point, it was very strange to refer to myself as an I and no longer as a we. In May of 2018, Johanna and I had finished our term at Forsyth Tech with our associate degrees and transferred over to the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. God miraculously paid for both of our scholarships in full and enabled us to graduate without any debt whatsoever. The only catch is that we must be full-time students until we graduated. On September 6, 2018, my world shattered. We got the call that something had happened to my dad as he went to go swim at the local YMCA. Mom and I rushed down there as quickly as we could, and I attempted to calm her down. I had the loose thought at that time, could my dad die? We were quickly rushed into the back office room and were told that he was dead. A switch flipped in my brain as it compartmentalized the lost and turned to my surviving parent. Mom was hyperventilating, and I was afraid that she was going to have a heart attack and I was going to lose both of them. Nana and Johanna didn't have a car to get to us at the time and had to call a family friend. But before they could show up, God had a plan for us and was going to send us somebody to help in that really rough time. So the local pastor's wife came to Mom and me. She didn't know us very well, but she was a friend of Nana's. And she really helped us as our world shook. She and her husband shepherded us through the hard process in days to come, and the two of them belonged to this little church right here, where we stand today, First Christian Church of Clemmons. And the whole church drew us in. I've been to a lot of churches over the course of my life, but only one or two that I really remember having like a home in. It was very hard to find a God-fearing church in this world we live in, and so we hadn't been led to the right one yet in the area we were. But Little First Christian Church of Clemmons drew us in and enveloped us all with love. My dad's actually buried out in the cemetery out there, despite the fact he'd only just visited the church the week before he died. If you recall the date earlier, you might remember that I was enrolled at UNCG at the time, and I was barely a month into my first semester there, and I was struggling very hard. My grief manifested in my schoolwork as it became the source of all my pain and anxiety. I was unable to take a break as my scholarships would be canceled, and I would lose my full tuition if I even lightened my course load by a single class. So I had a horrible time there for those remaining 2 years, and was miserable for most of it. I had to fight and claw in a poorly managed science department just to get my grades through. I had lots of good instructors there, thankfully, and I had a lot of cool people to meet there, so I got to witness to people while I was there. So there was a plan while I was there. But I wasn't allowed to have a lot of help from administration side of things because my situation was not uncommon and it didn't really concern them. Despite my struggles, I was prayed through my classes by my new church family, and they loved on my family through the whole process. I did manage to graduate with my bachelor's in biology, and I looked forward to the next step in my life. During that senior year of college, very busy timeline, my mom met my stepdad, Ray, here at church. At the time, my mom, my sister, and myself made up the youngest population by the church, and it pleased the little old ladies to push Mom and Ray together. They got married in June of 2019, and Ray was given the position as the associate minister shortly after. It was strange gaining a new family of all boys to mix with our family of all girls, but I think we merged pretty well. I think God knew I needed a father figure in my life, and Ray has a very special place in my heart. I always said I hated the idea of having more siblings, but when I get to bother my stepbrothers, it warms my mischievous little heart. God prepared my little family unit to become a pastor's family long before it happened. As a completely isolated homeschool family, we had been given far more information about the Bible and the gospel than we ever really should have had or that we'd actively seeked out. It just kind of fell into our laps. And we really didn't have anyone to share it with. But when Ray met Mom, she knew almost as much as he did, or probably at the same level as he did. And God equipped Johanna to refute the political and religious attacks that were thrown at her by her professors and classmates in college, including talking down on a weird God is a girl cult once. He equipped me to refute evolution and stand up for my faith in an underrepresented STEM field. I was even forced to take an evolution class that actively asked your view on religion and what your view was on the state of the universe. And took the whole first class time to bash religion quite thoroughly. And it shook a lot of people's faith in that class. However, I chose to one-on-one debate my evolution professor for 3 hours on my free time because it was an opportunity to share the gospel. God really had provided a lot of unusual information for at the time, 17-year-old. It was so cool because God gave me so many opportunities to share the gospel in my time during college and just meet cool Christians from all over the world. It was a really unique opportunity, and while college was incredibly painful, I am thankful for all those opportunities to plant seeds in the lives of other people. After college, my life got a little hectic as Ray was transferred to the position of senior minister. The transition got really messy due to circumstances outside of my family's control, and we had to weather attacks spiritually and attacks from people we loved. It was particularly heartbreaking as we lost friendships with people we loved like family, and it was hard to see my family attacked and not be able to speak up to defend them from the lies that were spread about them. I wish there was a way to mend the hurt felt from our side of the fence, but as of now, that is not possible without causing further harm. Thankfully, we had quality leadership at the church that knew the situation and stood by us and worked to protect the church from that upheaval. That leadership also made sure we didn't quit when it got really ugly. They held their feet to the fire. I learned from that transition that discord happens even in the most loving church body, and how important it is to trust God and His plan through those trials. And it can be kind of exhausting being a pastor's kid, as I'm around the church whenever the doors are open. However, through it, I've been able to learn new skills and take on new responsibilities that I never would have had before. I had the opportunity to learn the audiovisual equipment and even become the AV tech leader at the church. I mostly landed the position because I was the first person to learn the new programs and new soundboard, but now I have a host of lovely sound minions that I love to work with. God's also used my position as the PK to push me out of my comfort zone. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember being terrified to sing. It was so bad I would even refuse to sing as part of the church congregation, much less pop up here. I was just that scared. But I love music, and I knew all the words to the songs, and I would be singing them in my heart, but I wouldn't be brave enough to even sing them next to my own family members. However, God does not follow those boundaries and says that He has plans for you outside of them, and proceeded to shove me out of my comfort zone. And now I sing almost every Sunday and Wednesday, and I really enjoy it. One of the biggest opportunities was given to me was the opportunity to work in starting up our church's Celebrate Recovery. When CR started here, I had no idea what it was. I was just the sound guy, and I was just helping out my stepdad on a Wednesday evening because I wasn't busy. Ray had been the minister of another CR for many years before coming here, so he was very familiar with it and taught us as a church how it should be run according to the Bible and CR steps and principles. It was interesting to learn about, but I didn't think it was exactly my thing, not my cup of tea. It wasn't for those people, but I'm just the sound guy. I'm back in my corner. I knew all the faces of the people, and I knew some things about their lives, but nothing much more than that. I wasn't interested in just doing a small group because I'm busy, and I'm doing fine. Then I had a stress breakdown at CR. I really don't remember what it was about. It was probably about school or something else maybe, because I was finishing college at the time. My mom found me crying in the corner of the sound room, and she essentially said, "Yeah, you're going in small group." And despite my very weak protest, she picked me up by the scruff of the neck and deposited me with my sisters in Christ in the small group room. I spilled my guts in there in fellowship with my sisters, and the rest is history. It's been really helpful to have support of my fellow believers, and I finally got to know the faces that I just observed for a very long time as part of CR. I finally went through a step study shortly after that, and I got to put into practice all the information from the slides I kept clicking through every Wednesday. I've had many opportunities to actually recommend CR to coworkers as a place where everyone, and it's a place for everybody because we all have hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I actually got to recommend it multiple times this week alone. Doing your testimony is the last step in order to be in leadership, and I knew from the beginning that I wanted to do that once I got involved in CR, but I actually had a really hard time writing my testimony. And I found this struggle to actually be kind of out of character for me, because I really don't mind telling people my story inside and out of work, and I'm one of those really weird people that likes public speaking. However, it was somehow really hard to put down the words. I had my unfinished testimony sitting on my computer for over a year. I know that I was under spiritual attack to try to keep me from doing it, as I needed to finish my testimony in order to be in leadership. I love teaching, so it's very likely that, and I actually am on the schedule, to do more lessons later this year. But I want to encourage everybody who maybe is struggling to write your testimony that if enemy keeps trying to trip you up, you're probably doing something right. Pray for guidance, get in God's word, and meet with your accountability partner or sponsor. In Revelation 12:11 says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." It's very important. I'm thankful that I have a loving family, a wonderful church, a 4-year degree with no debt, my good health, and a great future ahead of me. I shouldn't feel depressed or anxious, but I sometimes occasionally still do. For now, I'm in a transition point. I'm waiting on the Lord for the next phase of my life. Isaiah 40:30 through 31 says, "Even the youth shall faint and be weary, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Please keep praying for me as I seek God's will for my life. I'm glad I'm at First Christian Church at Clemmons and CR of Clemmons, and I love y'all.